Storytellers Campfire radio shows are heard in over 100 countries around the world. Our main programs are Author's Voice, Poetry Wheel, Storytales Radio Show, The Golden Ark of Treasure, The Charlie Checkers Show, Campfire Musicians, and On the Line Public Interest News. Every show is unique and provides interesting programs for our listeners. Join us each week at our campfire on Tuesday at 12 o'clock noon on XRQK Los Angeles and Airtime America. To learn more about Storytellers Campfire, visit online at storytellerscampfire.org.
Welcome to all our listeners. This is the Charlie Checkers Show, and I'm your storyteller today, Charlie Checkers. So good to be back with everyone. Hope everyone had a fun and activity-filled summer. Here at home, we enjoyed our pool with our grandchildren a good bit this summer. I'd like to remind everyone that they can follow me at thecharliecheckershow.com and storytellers.org, as well as our other esteemed hosts, Lady Selah, Rich Gilhausen, and Isabella Hart, our youngest host. A couple of announcements before we begin. Also, for our international radio tours, unfortunately, they are all full for 19. Fortunately, they are all full for the 2015 season. However, we're accepting submissions for 2016. So you can learn more when you visit online at internationalradiotours.org. We also have new times for our shows on Sunday at 7 p.m., Tuesday, 12 noon, Wednesday, 4 p.m., Friday, 4 p.m., and Saturday, 8 p.m. And, of course, there's always links to our shows on our website. We're so looking forward to really improving our shows and our listenership this fall. And for me, it's my favorite season with the weather getting a little bit chillier, dressing a little warmer, and the leaves changing to all those beautiful colors. Also, we'll want to remind everyone it is back to school. So please be careful and watch out for the children and the buses. Be ever mindful, reminding everyone no texting and driving, please. It will be different for us in our home as our granddaughter's homeschooling this year. She's a 7th grader, so we'll see how it goes. She's a very motivated AB student, but as with everything in life, it is a challenge. And she still has a schedule to keep, regular bedtimes, yada, yada, yada. And as grandparents, of course, we have to stick to our structure for her so she will succeed. We're at Storytellers Campfire all know it will be an awesome school year, and we hope that everybody will have fun and some exciting programming this fall and winter at our warm, glowing campfire. So to get started today, I'm going to talk about Mark Twain, a famous literature writer, All-American, and I'm going to tell you one of his first stories, the celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras-County. But before I get to that and we get started, let's take a short commercial break this day.
Whoa, a new digital music player. Thanks, Mom.
Oh, I'm glad you like it, because I can't wait to toss the big stereo. And now that we got your dad that big HD TV he wanted, we can throw out our old TV, too.
Hold up. You can't just throw out electronics.
Really?
They need to be recycled or donated.
And how would we do that?
It's so easy, Mom. Today, recycling electronics is just as easy as buying them. GreenerGadgets.org has all the info. We just enter our zip code to find a certified recycling center nearby. There are thousands of them, and new ones are being added all the time. Some of our local stores are even certified recycling locations.
I like that.
Did you know that some of the stuff in our old electronics could be used to make new products and conserve natural resources?
Well, okay then. Let's gather them up. What was that website again?
GreenerGadgets.org. We just enter our zip code and go.
Welcome back to the Charlie Checker Show. I'm your storyteller, Charlie Checkers. As I mentioned before, we took our commercial break. We are going to be discussing Mark Twain. He was born Samuel Longhorn Clemens in November 30th, 1835. He was born shortly after a visit by Halley's Comet. And all through his life, he predicted that he would go out with it too. He died on April 21st, in 1910, and right after the comet returned. So he was lauded, or everyone thought of him as the greatest American humorist of his age. William Faulkner Twain, the father of American literature. So he was an author, and he was a humorist. And he wrote the most famous books, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer in 1876, and its sequel, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn in 1885. And Huckleberry Finn is often called the great American novel. I love both those books. I've read them both in my time, probably more than once. Very adventurous, as I was a big tomboy. Mark Twain grew up in Hannibal, Missouri, and it provided the setting, a really good setting for Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. And he had an apprenticeship with a printer, and he worked as a typesetter. He contributed articles to the newspaper his older brother owned, Orrin Clemens, and he became later a riverboat pilot on the Mississippi River. So he's very diverse, lots of different jobs. A lot of us can relate to that. He headed west to join Orrin, his brother, in Nevada. He referred to his humorously singular lack of success at mining when he was doing that. And after that, he turned to journalism for the Virginia City Territorial Enterprise. His humorous story, the one I'm reading today, The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras-County, in 1865, was based on a story that he heard when he was at a mining camp in California at Angels Hotel and Angels Camp. So he spent some time as a miner there. And this short story brought international attention to Mark Twain, and it was even translated into a Greek classic. So his wit and satire in prose and in speech earned a lot of praise from his critics and his peers, and he was a friend to a lot of the presidents and artists and industrialists, and even European royalty as he traveled extensively. He earned a great deal of money from his lectures and writing, but he invested in ventures that probably didn't earn him a great deal of money. They lost money, actually, notably the Page Compositor. It was a mechanical typesetter, and it didn't go well, or it failed because of it was too complex, and it wasn't really precise. So, because of his financial setbacks, he finally filed for protection from his creditors through bankruptcy. And a gentleman helped him to gain his financial troubles over, Henry Huddleston Rogers. He helped him to be able to pay his creditors back, even though he didn't have any legal responsibility to do so after his bankruptcy. And that's rare. I think when most people do bankruptcy, they don't usually pay them back if they don't have to. Okay, so Mark Twain in 1847, when he was 11, his father was an attorney and a judge, but then his father died of pneumonia. So Mark Twain left school after the 5th grade to become an printer's apprentice. And in 1851, he began working, like I said, as a typesetter, and he did humor sketches for the Hannibal Journal that his brother owned. When he was 18, he left that to work as a printer in New York City, in Philadelphia, St. Louis, and also in Cincinnati in Ohio. He joined the newly formed International Typographical Union, a printers union, and he educated himself in the public libraries in the evening. So instead of going to college, he did it that way, and he did it with himself. So he was finding wider information that a regular college probably couldn't give him. Another thing that Mark Twain had wrote about a lot was his life on the Mississippi. And he describes that in Life on the Mississippi, and how when he was a boy, there was one permanent ambition between him and all his friends, and that was to be a steamboat man. Quoting Mark Twain, being the pilot was the grandest position of all. The pilot, even in those days, didn't have much wages, trivial wages, but it had a princely salary, from $150 to $250 a month, and no board to pay, so he didn't have to pay for housing. As Mark Twain described it, the pilot's prestige exceeded that even of the captain of the steamboat. And the pilot had to get up a warm personal acquaintance with every snag, one-limb cottonwood, and every obscure wood pile and that was along the riverbanks for 1,200 miles. And more than that, he must actually know where these things are in the dark. To be able to navigate that steamboat on those waters, you had to know exactly where everything was, so it didn't snag the steamboat. So the steamboat that he apprenticed on was, the pilot was Horace E. Bigsby, and he took on Mark Twain as a cub pilot, so he could teach him how to, the river between New Orleans and St. Louis for $500, payable out of Mark Twain's first wages after graduating. So he studied the Mississippi landmarks. He learned how to navigate its currents effectively and how to read the river, as it's called, and it constantly shifting around the channels and the reefs and the submerged sandbars and the snags and the rocks that would tear the life out of the strongest vessel that ever floated. And it was more than 2 years before he even received his pilot license, learning all the while. And piloting apparently gave him his pen name, Mark Twain. From Mark Twain, the leadsman's cry for a measured river depth of 2 fathoms, which is 12 feet, which was safe water for a steamboat. So while training, Samuel, Mark Twain, convinced his younger brother Henry to work with him. And unfortunately, Henry was killed on June 21st, 1858, when he was working on the steamboat, the Pennsylvania, and it exploded. Now, apparently, Mark Twain had foreseen this death in his dream about a month earlier, and all through his life, Mark Twain felt really guilt-stricken, and he held himself responsible for the rest of his life for his brother's death. It's very sad. His first success, as we mentioned before, as a writer, came with his humorous tall tale, the one I'm reading today, The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras-County. And it was published in the New York Weekly, the Saturday Press, on November 18th, 1865. And, of course, bringing him national attention. And a year later, he traveled to the Sandwich Islands in present-day Hawaii. And he was a reporter for the Sacramento Union. And his travel logs were really popular and became the basis for his first lectures he lectured on. In 1867, a local newspaper funded a trip for him to the Mediterranean. And during his first tour of Europe, and when he went to the Middle East, he wrote a popular collection of travel letters that were later compiled as The Innocents Abroad. It was on this trip that he met his future brother-in-law, Charles Langdon. They both were passengers on the Quaker City. and on their way to the Holy Land.